Today, we're going to talk about a really popular topic that's been going on throughout these days. Do I even have to mention it? Because I know you already thought about it. Yes, COVID-19. The world is facing a big challenge. And we all see in the news new cases coming up and how strongly it affects our health. But what will happen after this pandemic with the world's economy? What can we do in order to revive it? This is a new situation for everybody because it involves all countries. This is different from other crises where there is an error or a lack of market or financial shock. Rather, it is something that limits the way people make money. Nowadays, that we have globalization and the facility of traveling and having international connections, it's even harder. The question is, will the world be able to get through this? Of course, or at least that's what we need to pursue. Here are some alternatives I found both viable and realistic after reading some economists' opinion and countries' measures. First, we need to find our problem and understand it. Social distancing is one of the crucial points in order to stop spreading the virus. This means that the service sector is the most affected. Consequently, there is a high unemployment rate. To put it into numbers, around 30 million Americans have filed initial unemployment claims. This is not a situation where the solution is easily seen, nor obtained. It is based a lot on predictions and tendencies, but it is important to get informed with different variables to simply make it more accurate. That's why I decided to divide the solutions in two focuses: developed countries and developing countries, just a general assumption. So let's start with those nations with developed economies. It is not hard to see that airlines, restaurants, malls, tourism in general are the most damaged categories. Everything that involves face-to-face interaction. But how can we reactivate those sectors that depend so much on social relations? Well, developing industries that don't rely on people, like technology. As the Indian economist Aman Srivastava said, it is useful to consider that the future may see greater employment in new technologies that can help support future response and resilience mechanisms. In Estonia, tens of startups across the country are contributing with ideas and solutions in a platform created by the government called Hack the Crisis. Most of them being apps with educational, food-related, and even medical purposes that covers necessities from both the consumer and the provider. Countries like Germany, Finland, Portugal are some countries that have adopted the initiative. United Kingdom is another nation that is using its creativity and technology by inventing useful and innovative inventions like hand-free openers or stud masks with antiviral coating. Even though this may be seen as a small alternative, it helps a lot in microeconomics, meaning a huge impact in the nation's economy. There is also an alternative on combining technology with environmental purposes. Air pollution is a huge threat for us, and it is even more right now that scientists have proved that those places with more carbon emissions have a higher mortality rate. Now, we can say that technology is definitely in our favor. But what happens with those countries with a low level of education, meaning inferior technology opportunities? Countries like ours, the Dominican Republic, where our economy is mainly based in tourism and agricultural exports. Well, first, promote local production. This is actually a bit contrary to globalization. Incentivize internal production, especially food. Production of fruits, dairy products, all things that in which that country is specialized. Second, and as unrelated as it seems, road and bridge repair, as well as public transportation investments, have a huge impact on the creation of jobs and spend money really fast. This was actually one of the measures taken after the American recession in 2008. And third, provide monetary help to low-income individuals and small companies, just to keep them afloat until the pandemic crisis decreases. And even though the monetary help will be low in case of developing countries, there needs to be an economic support for those who need it the most. Also, that will promote expenditure on the population, so at least there will be money movement, making the economy grow. We also need to understand that besides the economic impacts, this is also a political issue. Taking these types of measures involves a lot of political interest. Let's take as an example the struggles that the European Union is having in the decision making. In conclusion, it is a couple of tough decisions that the world has to take, because workers aren't the only ones who need cover. It is critical to protect companies' cash flow, extending credit so firms don't go bankrupt. In other words, we need to help the low-income class and workers for them to eat, but also the enterprises, no matter how small or big they are, because they're the ones that produce jobs. Now it is the time for all of us to work together, the government, the big companies, ourselves as individuals, everyone. And support enterprises, support those who need it, but especially support our well-being. Because as citizens, these are solutions that we can't really control, but a really easy solution and effective is to simply stay safe. The faster we get out of this pandemic, the faster the economy revives.